where you learn how to do stuff so you don't have to procrastinate, and if you do, you can do it effectively. This lecture is about teaching you how to procrastinate effectively by learning how to research better.
Is that the last bomb?
Well, that's just
bomb.
pretty accurate where you found it.
Just pick it up.
Oh, this one has been lost. It's gone.
What if they know we think that?
All right, so someone raise their hand and volunteer to answer a question. I know that's a little scary because I haven't asked the question yet. All right, I'm going to go with Margot. When you start researching something, what do you do first? Google Scholar. What do you do first? Okay. Anyone else? All right. Talk to Monica. Beautiful answer. Just Googling. Stand up, sir. Who has been told, you can sit down now. Your time of fame is over. Who has been told by a teacher to not use Wikipedia? I hate to tell you this, but your teacher's just afraid that you're going to plagiarize or use it in your paper. Wikipedia is a great resource. And anytime I start a research assignment, that's where I start. Am I connected?
No, you're going to have to use the desktop to get it.
And if I use the desktop, it shows up there?
Yeah, it's right there.
Or you can just yell at your laptop.
What?
With determination.
Alright, so basically this lecture is going to, I'm going to introduce a topic and show you how I, as a researcher, would research that topic using normal resources. Peter's going to get into the nitty-gritty, debatey type resources that you use when you have like library access, EBSCOhost, LexisNexis, the cool stuff. I'm going to tell you, if you have Google at home, how to get stuff done. Alright. Am I connected?
You're on.
Alright. Everyone pull up Google.
Are we allowed?
You are allowed to use your laptop.
Ooh, look at that.
Alright, let's kill some of the lights.
But just a warning, I know the Facebook face because I've given it.
I can see in the back if you want.
No, you don't even need to. I'll spot it.
Okay.
So if I know that you're on Facebook, you're volunteered for the next question. And it's going to be real hard. So don't go on Facebook.
Look at this. Jackie debating.
Oh, hey, Jackie.
Oh, hey guys!
What do we know?
Jackie with T. Or, you know,
I'm not in that picture.
That's
That's
not her.
that's my best friend.
Jackie.
That's me when I have pink hair.
Jackie in our.
Oh gosh.
She's just.
Embarrassing.
Where's Jackie's judge philosophy? Or it's one interesting thing. If you're trying to find somebody in debate, so. You're gonna get all kinds of strange things. Those are not me.
Judge philosophy. There's
Right, but if I do this,
debate.
there's a lot of stuff
Whoa.
on me.
That's you.
I'm popular. Alright.
Okay. So everyone have Google pulled up? That's fine. This is not like you don't need it. It's just a helpful study tool if you're following along.
If you don't have a laptop or yours just giving you problems, slide over beside someone.
Yeah, that's actually a really good idea.
Just
Make a friend. All right. Who wants to volunteer for the next question? Right here. Pick something going on in the world now. Too late. Immigration. All right, so I want everyone. Does anyone know the name of the bill in Congress right now that's getting passed?
Is it affirmative action? Is that just going to deny?
Continue on about immigration.
Is CIR sufficient?
Yeah, CIR is sufficient. Comprehensive immigration reform. Kara Fano's going to talk a lot about that. We're going to do some preliminary research, so you sound smart when he gives this lecture. All right, so going into debate, I know nothing about immigration. What do I do? Looky here. It's right here. We'll go back for all of you that saw the cool article that I saw at the top. All right. So Wikipedia is really good to show you the terminology that's being used about the topic that you're debating. Because the biggest thing about learning how to research is learning the search terms that you need to put in whatever search engine you're using. Because if I just continue throughout my entire researching, just typing in immigration, or who has typed in something like, immigration's a bad idea, or what's bad about immigration, or what is immigration? These are not good search terms when you want to find specific articles. And that's what debate is about, is finding specific stuff. So, let's figure out what the specifics are about immigration. It's a term used for political discussion regarding changes to current immigration policy of a country. Seems kind of logical. But if you would have just typed in the word immigration, you find a new word here that's reform. Reform is a big topic when it comes to immigration because it's a law in the country. We don't let certain people in. We let people in on certain visas, stuff like that. That's another word that you're going to see in this Wikipedia article is the word visa. If you're talking about immigration, how do people immigrate? Come on a visa. The other question is, where are people immigrating from most commonly in the United States? Which you will see when you go down to, I'm guessing it's right here. Yeah. Where is it? Here's a big word, Mexican. Immigration is very common. That's a big hot button issue in immigration debate in Congress, is figuring out how to resolve like bilateral issues with Mexico. That's a word that you can type into your search engine and find more specific articles. So, what is something that you all think would be common in an immigration debate?
Expense.
Expense, what?
Border security?
Border security, citizenship. Yeah. Has anyone seen the They Steal Our Jobs? I'm not going to go on about this, but yeah. It's a big thing in, like, citizens' minds in America, is whether or not that's true. It's not, just so you know. But education, yes. One of the most common visas that a lot of people come over on is an education visa so that they can go to college in the United States. Both of you. First. Second. Yeah. Yes. All right. So let's see if some of the words that you all thought about are in this article. I can see one right here. It doesn't specifically say expenditure, but it's talking about taxpayers and how much this costs us. That's a big debate here. If you go down here, legalization, which I would think is kind of in line with what Christian was saying. And you can...
We're actually able to go visit the IT center during lunch, so...
As long as you have a view of
Yeah,
the
if it's
screen,
not
it should
working,
be-
just follow what I'm doing, because I'm doing what you're doing, so that makes sense. Alright, so let's pick the Arizona issue here. That's a big heading under the Wikipedia article. And see if we can find exactly what's going on with that in a Google search. What just happened? Why don't you control tabs? All right. Okay, so immigration. This is a very important thing. When you are looking up words in Google and you put immigration and something else like this, a lot of times it's not as effective as if you put in immigration plus.
Now, why would you do that instead of just copying Arizona SB 1070 and then pasting that?
Because maybe you don't just want to know about the law that's happening in Arizona.
Okay.
But if you want to get more specific, that's when you start to continue narrowing down your search. So the first thing that I would tell you if you are writing notes or creating an outline is when you're starting to research, start with Wikipedia.
What else should we talking? You always want to start a research assignment more broad and then go specific. It's much more, it'll lend your hands to seeing various things that are more interesting for your research. Start broad. If you start more specific, you could start finding yourself frustrated. Okay. So what I always do, and I think most people do this, is we start pretty broad. I keep a document up where I use all my search terms, and I start really broad, and then I keep narrowing.
Yeah, so let's give an example of this, of when you may have gotten frustrated in researching. I really want to find a piece of evidence that specifically says that immigration from Venezuela causes corruption in the governments and Venezuela's economy is going to crash. Anything helpful? No. I wonder why. Has anyone ever taken the resolution that they've been given and put it in Google? When I was a novice, that was the first thing I did. We had a resolution that was literally like this long. It was on the Middle East topic. And you could do like so many things under this resolution. There were like 5 countries. And I typed that entire thing. And I didn't even copy and paste. Why was I thinking this was a good idea? I don't know. But put it into Google, and I'm just like, come on, tell me what to do. Do you know what pops up? Do you know the only thing that pops up? Yeah, the website for debate. You're going to get a ton of debate websites that are like, here's the resolution for this year or this month or whatever. Yeah, that's not helpful. Come on. We got to think better than that. So starting broader gives you ideas for how to narrow your search. So if we're starting immigration, plus Arizona, that is a keyword I have found from Wikipedia. So start with Wikipedia, pull up a document, write all the important words that you've seen in the Wikipedia article. And then maybe specific senators. That's a big thing in immigration debate. Like one specific senator that you'll find in that article is Boehner, who talks a lot about immigration. So there's someone you put there. And then continuing on, just like the economic costs, border security. And you found a lot of maybe pros and cons to the immigration debate that can help you keep funneling for whatever research you're doing. So then you go here, do your first search. And usually I kind of peruse the titles, because if you like go onto every site, you're going to go to late night jokes about immigration, and that's never going to be helpful. Try to keep yourself from going onto late night jokes about immigration or Reddit articles or anything like that until I've gotten to the next part of my lecture, which tells you how Reddit can be helpful. So, let's pull up this article. It's from last year. It's from Fox News, which, but we might find some interesting things nevertheless. So, you go on here and you find out that there's an Arizona immigration law that was mentioned in the Wikipedia article, obviously, but talks about how it's like there's a fight in Congress. So you're finding things where, or a Supreme Court decision that says, oh no, this went to the Supreme Court. Immigration is a hot button issue. You're figuring out key words here so you can keep funneling your research onward. I would go through this and see if I can maybe find evidence to actually include in a new document, which is when I start creating my next document. So the Justice Department filed a lawsuit. We're going on about how this is a big issue. And here's, I think, one of the issues you can find here under Arizona is how it has allegations of racial profiling. And that's like part of the big issue here. So that's when you kind of start creating an outline. So who has had teachers in school when you have to create a research paper where the first assignment they give you is to hand in an outline? And you're just like, why do I do this? Can't I just sit down and write the paper? Why do we create outlines? The reason you create outlines is just easier. Like, when you know the words that you need, then you can start actually figuring out what to include in here and start continuing on with more words. Maybe a Arizona senator. That would probably be an interesting fact to know in this debate. Maybe the fact that Arizona is really close to the border. And that's how you keep funneling when you see this research. You don't want to start big or like big words and big sentences. You want to start with one word. If you're looking into immigration, put immigration in Google. Pull up that Wikipedia article. Narrow down the searches. This might seem like common sense. But obviously, I feel like I'm a pretty smart person. I didn't have enough common sense to think about this when I was novice in college. 18-year-old could not think about this. So, yeah, just giving you a forewarning. So, after you look into this, you have to think about what type of searches you're trying to do. So, if you found on Wikipedia that Arizona is a big issue with immigration, maybe you then think, where can I find the best articles that are going to talk about Arizona immigration? Who has thoughts on where they would go if they were trying to find like news articles for that?
Usually all the libraries have the online databases.
Yeah. There we go. That's the one I was actually looking for. That one's helpful. He's going to tell you how exactly to do that. It's a little more complicated. I like Google, to be honest. It does the job for me. So Google News, though, will take all of the articles that are put on Google and filter out the ones that aren't news articles. So if you ever get tired of looking for immigration articles, and you find this like really good website, but you realize it's from someone's Tumblr, and they've just kind of went on a rant about immigration, and you're like, they say some good things, but it's a Tumblr, and like right above that they have pictures of cows, and right below that is a video of a really cute bunny. Like, I don't think this is credible. It's not. Don't use it. You want to use Google News because that's going to filter out all of those bad articles. How do you do that? Some of you may ask. Google.com/news. And that takes you to a new little filtering that shows you top stories, if you're ever interested in making yourself a more civically engaged person. Look on this and you can see what's going on in the world. just an FYI. But then you can go into immigration, Arizona. And now we're seeing exactly what's going on in immigration now that is tied to Arizona. It's a lot more helpful than putting in a resolution and hoping for the best. Or even just putting in immigration in Arizona in just plain Google. Because when we did that, we did not get this article from 57 minutes ago in the normal Google search. We did not get the Washington Post. We did not get the Examiner. None of these. And these are actual specific articles. Adrian, do you have a question? I see your hand up. Cool. Hope goes well. So after you think about maybe the regular thoughts on news articles, the other important thing to think about is when you want these articles to be from. So if you're searching for news articles about Arizona immigration, the problem comes along when you want specific news articles about the Arizona immigration bill that happened maybe not now, maybe when the Arizona immigration bill was first introduced, and that's when the controversy started. That's when you would start filtering. If you see up here, there are a lot of filters. That's what we call them, if you didn't know that. This takes you to the normal web. This shows you pictures. I assume all of you have looked for that. But then you get over here, which is the cool stuff, search tools. All news means it filters out blogs. What if you want a blog? What if some debate blog included an article and you forget what debate blog it was that you want to find? You can include blogs and then add the word debate. And that'll get pulled up. We don't want to do that though, not now. So, immigration. Okay. We want to specifically date search. I like custom range when I'm searching for things like talk about the immigration bill when it was first introduced. That's a lot better than if you put like the past month or something like that. Custom range lets you pick anything in these days. Now, what if you were looking for the most recent article about what's going on in Arizona now about immigration? Maybe you're looking for politics uniqueness updates for your policy debate. Maybe in LD, you're looking for stuff that's specific to the topic that you're actually searching for, that you can present as current event facts that maybe give more credence to the value or value criteria you're upholding. Or in public forum, you want to show the most recent updated evidence about immigration so that you are the more credible source on the issue. So that's when you would go into search terms at any time and go, I would say, the past month. And that will then sort it by date most of the time, or it at least tells you when the date was that it was published. This is really important for when you're searching for how to cite the articles that you are providing in debates that you give, so that you can actually give, if your opponent provides evidence about immigration, you can then provide further debate on the issue about, well, your evidence is from 2 months ago about immigration. My article from 2 weeks ago says that immigration's at an all-time high, which goes against what you're saying. Another level of debate makes you seem like a better debater, smarter. So this pulls up some of the same articles, mainly because Google News is pretty good about this most of the time. All right, so we've gone over how you want to do broad to narrow searches. You want to use Google News if you're looking for updated evidence, time-sensitive material. It's also good for causation articles. Most of the time when you're looking for articles specifically for debate, you want pieces of evidence that are going to say things like, more immigration is good for the economy, maybe. something like that. News articles are very good for this because reporters like to sound really smart and they like to have people read their stuff. So in order for people to read their stuff, they have to provide maybe scary things for people, like immigration's bad and here's why, here's what it's going to do. That's why you want those articles. But they also might have causes they want to promote, like we need this bill passed. Maybe they're a reporter for The Hill and they're a Democrat-leaning or Republican-leaning reporter. They want people to like immigration. So they're going to give really good reasons for why immigration is good and we should support it. Now, here are a few big hints that you're not going to hear most of the time because people don't want to tell you this. Because most research is good and people like to tell you to research. Here's when you don't research. If you are on page 13 of this Google search, you have gone too far now. You need to change your search terms. I know, you might be like, but what if the article I need is on the next page and I don't go there? Change you gotta take, gambling's good. Like, change your search terms. Look for the newer, innovative words. That's when you start narrowing. Next thing, and I would say if you want to write a phrase that's cool in your notes, don't beat a dead horse. You also need to keep in mind things like not only date searches, and not only types of article searches like the blogs and the news articles, but on the opposite side of don't beat a dead horse, don't give up. Like, research is hard, and I will tell you this, when I was in my first year or two of debate, I never wanted to research. I never did research. I would try, and then after like 30 minutes, I'd be like, I suck at this. I'm going to go play a sport. Go outside and play volleyball and be done with my life and hate debate for a little bit. Don't do that, because the more practice you get at research, the better you are at it. I'll give you an example. Policy Kids, the app that you have, was cut in like 3 days by myself. Monica gave help. Peter helped. The reason it was cut in 3 days is because the original affirmative that we thought of is going to pass in Congress. So can't give you an app that's going to pass, because that would be kind of unfortunate. So if that's what happens in debate. You have to innovate when stuff goes down. That's also why you want to always research. That's why Google News is important. Because what if you have some portions of your case where you say the government should uphold like any right to citizenry, because America is a nation founded on immigration. And then the Comprehensive Immigration Reform Bill gets passed. How does that reflect your argument in your case that we should do this? It's happening now. So that's when you need to innovate the arguments you're making, because you don't want to sound like you are uninformed about what's actually going on about immigration. Google News, important. The next thing. This is one of my favorites. Who likes science in here? I don't. I'm going to tell you, like, I hate science. When I look into science articles, it sounds like Hebrew to me. Which is funny because I'm Jewish, but I don't know Hebrew, so, like, very, very annoying when bat mitzvah came around. But you need to locate what type of argument you're looking for. If you're looking for science stuff, a reporter / staff writer from Fox News is not going to be able to tell you about the embryonic stem cell research intricacies. I can't do that. Young Kwan can, because he's like all into that stuff. But Young Kwan, if he would write an article, would not submit it to Fox News. He would put it into certain databases that will come up on Google Scholar. Oh, that's a green enemy. Okay, so Google Scholar is really well known for science research because that is one of the reasons that it was started. It took a lot of journal articles that you often, as a normal person, would not be able to access because you don't pay for the journal, and put it onto ways where you can find it and maybe actually access the PDF document or something like that. Very important for when you have a topic like, should the government uphold embryonic stem cell research? Or the United States federal government should provide funding for stem cell research? Or pros and cons to stem cell research? This is where you would go, because you want to find articles from people who actually know what they're talking about, not people that still don't know what embryonic stem cell research is. So, most of the time, I will tell you this. I think that's spelled right. Broad to narrow searches on Google Scholar are not helpful. Because these people are really smart. They're not going to give you a Wikipedia article about embryonic stem cell research on Google Scholar. They're going to give you mouse embryonic stem cells are the cells that put blah, 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 blah. These words mean nothing to me. They might mean something to you. That's why the Wikipedia search is important. Because when you get kind of a background knowledge on maybe some parts of embryonic stem cell research, like the fact that this word exists for a potential differentiation activity, that sounds like a term of art that might be involved in stem cell research that would have been on a Wikipedia article. That's when you can include that into your search terms so that you get a more informed Google Scholar result. Things with Google Scholar that you should know. If you do not search by date, you are going to get articles from 1928. Do you think someone who wrote an article about embryonic stem cells from 1928 is going to be as informed about that research as someone from this decade?
Definitely.
No, because the research in science is always innovating. Things change. We now don't put leeches on our body to try to rid ourselves of toxins and waste. We don't think that we need to, I don't know, do all that stuff because people are like, that's stupid. We now know we have to wash our hands before we perform surgery. We might want to wear gloves because things such as viruses and bacteria exist. Someone from the 17 and 1800s wouldn't have known that, so why would you read an article from that time period? You want to search by date. They give you helpful ones over here. Most of the time, Google Scholar separates this based upon A, the last 2 years, so you will see 13 and 12, and B, one that kind of makes sense, like 2009, because that's when more innovation in stem cell research happened. So I would put it there. You could also sort by relevance, sort by date. Maybe you're trying to find like decisions in the science community about stem cell research. You might then want to sort by date. I like relevance better just because it's going to pull up articles that more in line with your search terms. Now, you see something over here that says include patents, include citations. I, most of the time, take out those boxes. Unless you're looking for things about patenting or things that actually have patented research on them. That's more in line with that's about, but you get better articles in that way. Here's a really interesting portion of this screen that I want you to look at. Create alert. Most high school debaters do not do this. Alerts from Google give you, in your email, recent and awesome articles about the topic that you are looking into. This is really important for a couple of ways in your activity. First, if you're researching your affirmative and policy debate, and you want every single article about your affirmative, this will send them to you. Second, LD, how often does your topic change?
2 months.
Yeah. How hard is that to research to make sure that you have what you need in those 2 months to get all the arguments you need? It's a little harder, I think, because you have to just be on your game. Why not have the computer do that for you? Same thing, pros and cons when you're looking into the benefits and detriments of certain policies or certain actions in public forum. Make your research easier so that you don't have to constantly be behind your screen, which my mom always yells at me for. The flip side of all of you who are forced in the activity, my mom now wants to kick me out of the activity because she says I'm boring and I don't do anything anymore. Yeah, huge fights in my family about this. But, not your problem, it's fine.
I've been doing debate longer than her, and I am fascinating.
I feel like I am too, but whatever. I don't keep up with games anymore. It pisses my dad off. So, that's something you have to keep in mind. It's really easy to create a Google alert because it kind of shows you the outline for it. So you can use whatever your search terms were to create that Google alert and then put your email in. This is going to look for Google Scholar articles that will send you alerts. That's why the alert was on the Google Scholar page. So this is if you are actually looking for really like high-tech or really smart articles from qualified sources and PDFs. This is where you would create your alert. But if you just want to create a normal alert, you can go onto the normal Google page or Google News page, and it can send you alerts based on those search engines. That's the most helpful way to economize your researching. We talked about efficient procrastination. This is how you do it. All right. So Google Scholar, some other ways that it is good in specific debate events. This is good for solvency advocates in policy debate. If you want to find articles by a person with a PhD so that when you have a case debate, you can actually make qualifications arguments and have specific articles that say we should do X policy, that is where you're going to find some really good cards in Google Scholar. It's also good for impact work. If you're looking for environmental ecosystem destruction causes XYZ impacts, oh God. This is where you would look. Or research, like I said, written by highly qualified authors. The thing that you want to keep in mind for Google Scholar, because it can be very overwhelming, because people write in really big words or people say things you don't understand, is to keep changing your search terms the same way you would do with Google. Don't avoid PDFs. How many of you in here have opened a PDF document that was like 130 pages and you were just like, oh no, I'm not reading this. Too much. Yeah, I've done it. I did it all the time. Then I learned, as I got into debate even more, hey, that PDF is 130 pages. I can create an entire case with this PDF. Here's how. You don't just use that PDF. Do you know how like really smart people usually quote really smart people? Because it makes them sound a little more qualified, that they know someone else in the field who's saying what they're saying. It's usually kind of funny when they quote themselves from the previous book, but they do it. That's called the references section of the PDF. Most people stop reading once they hit the conclusion page, but there's like 30 pages of references at the end of that document. Do you know what those articles say? The same stuff, in different ways with different warrants and different smart people making awesome other arguments about that same topic. Why would you ignore that? You don't have to research anymore. They have done it for you. Another way to economize your research and be a procrastinator. I'm not saying you should be a procrastinator, but we all know you will be, so I'm just telling you how to do it better. All right. Use function words. This is very important in research. I did not learn what Boolean search terms, or is that what they're called?
Mhm.
Yeah, Boolean keywords or whatever, were until my junior year in debate. It's very, very embarrassing and sad for me when my coach Matt Struth was like, "You have been including just words this entire time that you research, and you're an affirmative who has to put together cases?" I'm like, "Yeah, what's wrong with that? What other way am I supposed to do this?" Apparently, this was news to me. The science and tech community thought of some really cool ways to make your researching easier. And it's called going into Google and using things like the plus sign when you want to use and. Using things like the minus sign. Who has ever looked for articles about nuclear fusion and then could not get past all of the articles about the forward fusion in your Google search term? Maybe not specifically this example, but the college topic last year was energy. We read a fusion app, and it was very frustrating, let me tell you. Well, Google gives you an awesome way of avoiding ever having to read about Ford again. And that would be awesome. So that's the minus sign. If you don't want your search terms to include the word Ford, and you might be scared about this, but what if it takes away articles I could actually use? Seriously? Think about that for a second. If you are looking for articles about nuclear fusion, when is the word Ford ever going to show up except for about cars? The other question is, maybe you're looking for articles about immigration, but you want to find specific articles about immigration from India, and you cannot stop immigration articles from Mexico popping up. We talked about how that's a big hot button issue with Congress, is the Mexican side of immigration, but maybe you want to figure out the other country sides of immigration. You can say, no Mexico. And it's okay, it is, that you're not finding any articles at that point about Mexico. Because then, after you do that search, you can go back again and say, no India. And then all the Mexico articles will come down. So this is how you start funneling research. You're not sure.
I was trying the nuclear fusion and Ford thing, but I was getting more Ford articles when I tried the nuclear fusion minus Ford.
Just give me a second. Yeah, I don't think you can get the ads to stop popping up
I
at the
have
top.
ad block, so I don't
Okay.
have any ads.
Let's look.
Did you put a space between the minus?
Yeah.
Yeah, no space.
Oh, okay.
Because if you put a space, it just thinks it's a dash and you're searching for dashes, which is never helpful. Why do you want dashes? Alright, so plus, minus. Here's a good one. I never use this on Google, so I can't really tell you if it actually works. No, it doesn't. I can almost. Here's another Boolean search term, though. This is what you would use when you're going into a beginner's lecture. Are you going to talk about Boolean search terms? Okay, good. I get to. All right, so W. What is this sign? What does it stand for? With. What does WO stand for?
No.
Without. Good. I had to explain that last year, and it's very, very good. All right, so if you just put with, not good, because you might as well just put the plus sign, which means and. But if you put with 25, this means within 25 words. So if you put fusion, nuclear fusion, within 25 of United States, it's not going to work on Google, just so you know. But this is helpful for, I would just make this, if you're writing notes, an entire bullet point of what a Boolean search term is, and then have the list. Because then you can use all of the terms that you want as you're searching.
Where does that work then?
This works in LexisNexis.
Okay.
This also works in what other? EBSCOhost does this. But EBSCO does it for you most of the time, because it'll say within paragraph and stuff like that. But Lexis is the biggest, I would say, besides Google, if you're looking for like news articles and stuff like that, way of searching. And they have all of the Boolean search terms you can think of. I'm going to give you the most simple ones because I don't use any other ones because you don't need to. So within 25 is a good mile marker for what you want your card or article to say. Because who has ever looked for 2 words in a search, like maybe immigration and Mexico, and you find an article that talks all about immigration, and the last sentence of the article says, the Mexican ambassador is coming to the United States to talk about it. And you're just like, this isn't about immigration in Mexico, it just says the word Mexico in it. This is not helpful. That's when using within 25 actually gives you, maybe you're talking about immigration reform within 25 of Mexico. Then most likely a lot of that article is going to be about Mexico in regards to immigration reform. Here's another very important thing to know. These are 2 words, right? If anyone says at home, be very sad. But a lot of times, they weren't in searches, they won't find just articles that say immigration reform. They're going to show you immigration at the top of the article, reform at the bottom of the article, but it's talking about reforming the patent system instead. Not helpful. Instead of just putting it like this, if you put quotes around it, it will specifically search for immigration reform as well. Make sure you get that stuff. See? Okay. Another really good Boolean search key is within paragraph. Because who's ever seen the articles from maybe Washington Post where a staff writer has included every paragraph is 2 sentences, and it's just like, next one, next paragraph, next paragraph. So if you put within 25, that within 25 might be 4 paragraphs from now, because that person doesn't know how to effectively write paragraphs. So if you put W/P, you will get whatever articles actually have those keywords in the same paragraph. Alright. Now, who has ever been really frustrated when they put in maybe a word like, I don't know, let's think of, someone give me a verb.
Running.
Running, that's actually a really good one. So maybe you want to find articles about how running helps cardiovascular issues. Who knows? I don't know. And you put running in your search terms. Running also has the word run in it. It has the word runs in it. Maybe you want the word ran, stuff like that. And you might not get some of the articles you want just because you used a different version of the word. There's a really easy way to solve this. It's called an exclamation point. You use an exclamation point. It then searches for every single, after run, word that also includes that portion of that word in it. So you'll get running, you'll get runs, anything like that. Maybe not as helpful here, because then you'll also get things like runt of the litter, words like that you don't need. But if you're looking for specific words like immigration, But there's also immigrate, immigrating, immigrates, things like that. You could put immigra, and then it'll look for everything that has that in it. That's a very helpful Boolean search term. Something else that is very helpful. Has anyone ever wanted to find articles that talk about Mexican immigration, but also in the context of how that affects maybe the economy? This is becoming a much more specific search. And that's what your goal is. You start broad, you go to more specific. So that is maybe an issue you've realized is very important in the immigration debate that you're searching. Now, if you just put immigration, Mexico, economy, you're going to find a ton of articles that are not just about Mexican immigration. You might find some that are, but you're also going to find stuff that might not be about the certain economic debate that you're looking for. So in that case, we have another helpful Boolean search thing, which is a parenthesis. Oh, that's a cool face. Everyone see the face? Okay. So a parenthesis allows you to do multiple searches in the same search to create one narrowed article search. So let's say parenthesis, immigra within 25 Mexico, because we might want Mexican, not just Mexico, and then end parenthesis. You're like, but then what do you do? Maybe you want to say plus, shift, plus economic growth. See how I used like a ton of the things I just showed you? Makes it look really confusing. This might not work on Google. I don't try stuff like this most of the time. Yeah, no. This will work on what Peter shows you later. But this search looks almost like a math equation, right? Does anyone like math in here? I was more a geometry person, not an algebra person. But some people like algebra. I've heard that it's either or. Who knows? So my coach, when I was in debate, his name's Matt Struve, debated at Peter's school, actually, UMW, and then came to Liberty when I was there. He used to always try to encourage me about research because I was so distraught and frustrated because I started as a novice and always wanted to be as good as all the other debaters who had more experience than me. In the end, I achieved that research goal and was a pretty damn good researcher. So his kind of, I guess, encouragement to me was to say, math, Jackie, math. I'm like, I came to debate because I like to talk, not do math problems. And now you're telling me that I have to go back and learn algebra when I didn't do very well in it in high school. What am I going to do? He's like, no, math. I'm like, this, you're not making sense. He's like, no. As a researcher, when you first start, what you search for looks like words. Your goal, by the time you're done using LexisNexis, is to make your search terms look like math. Because the more mathematical your search terms look, the more targeted articles you're going to get by the time you're done researching. So that you don't get, let's say, some of those first articles that we saw, like the meme pictures, or a blog, or a Tumblr account, stuff like that. All right, so I think I've gone into Google Scholar a little bit, had a little Boolean search term sidetrack, very helpful. Use them, practice them. You're going to feel defeated at certain times because Lexis will come back saying, this was not identifiable, blah, 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 blah. You're going to be like, come on, I did it. And then you just have to retry, and it'll give you what you need after a lot of pushing and prodding. All right. News. Google, normal. Google Scholar. Here's one thing that has gone away in most types of debate. Books. Who has a Kindle?
Wow.
That's a pretty good amount. Who's got like a reading feature type of thing that isn't a Kindle? Yeah. They have some really awesome features now on Kindle for books. Did you know that if you have a Kindle and get a book on it, you can copy and paste from the book, from the Kindle? What? Yeah, it's true. Did you also know there are really high-tech ways of copying and pasting from books on your laptop, like print screening, and then having free places online where they can identify the words and put it into Microsoft Word? Anybody? Did anyone know that?
Oh.
Some more high-tech. I don't really know how to get into most of that stuff. I usually type mine.
Just OCR.
Because yeah, it's called OCR. This is something you should write down in your notes because all of you should start reading more books for debate. OCR stands for something I don't know, but what it does is converts pictures of text into text that you can actually backspace and fix. There are free places online that you can download an OCR feature. There are apps on your iPad, on your phone. I have one for my phone because I'm too cheap to buy an iPad thus far. And the app for your phone lets you take a picture of a book page and then converts it into text for you.
Oh.
The iPad one's better, but I get by. So that is a way where using books becomes less frightening because you don't know how to use it in debate besides just getting up and reading it out of a book. If you're a paper team, it's really easy because then you can just copy it in a copying machine. But if you're a computer team, this is how you can make that help you in debate. But books are really important. One, they're like 300 pages long sometimes about one subject. If you want to research immigration, why not pick up a book that is 350 pages about the economic costs of immigration? You have now finished your research. You're welcome. On that topic, please don't stop. Keep researching. Also, they're free. I'm going to show you how. Anyone been to Amazon? Yeah. All right. Amazon Books has this really awesome feature for Kindle that lets you sort by price, which puts all the free books at the top. I do this all the time because I have really, really bad fascination with romance novels that are really expensive. You buy them in stores. Everyone can laugh if you want or look at me with scorn, it's fine. But yeah, Amazon Kindle. You can download it to your computer and then find free books on Amazon. You can also go to this really cool website. Yeah, it starts with google.com/books. Gosh, now you're on a book site. And you can look for books about the subjects that you're finding, which really helps you. Or you can just put in a normal Google search, blank plus book, and it'll pull up the book pages. Now, books are awesome. Ooh, Rob Lowe. He's kind of awesome. Anyone watch West Wing? Good show. Anyway, but they're free, they're long, they give you a lot of information. The one thing that I would recommend is be effective when you do your book research. First, don't read the entire book, unless you're doing it for also enjoyment, which is what I do when I read hedge books, because I really like the U.S. But besides that, I don't want to read an entire book about something. I just want to figure out what it says in the article. So in that case, look at the chapter titles. See what ones look interesting. Maybe you don't want to read the history of immigration in 1892 in America. maybe that's not going to help you for looking at current debates about immigration. Maybe instead you want to go to chapter 9, which says immigration and the economy. Then you want to skim for words. You have had that Microsoft document that hopefully now is like 3 pages of keywords, where you can now skim for all those words in that chapter instead of reading every single paragraph about the economic cost of immigration. Something else I would recommend, learn what a graph is. You probably know what they look like and how they work. Learn the intricacies of them and what they mean. Because a lot of times smart people, when they talk about maybe economic things, which you'll learn about when Solomon Stein gives his lecture, use pictures. Which one is a really nice break from having to read words. But 2, it gives you visual information about what that specific fact is. So if you know how a graph works, you can then explain the supplies and demands of immigration to whoever your opponent is and look like a super badass compared to the person who doesn't know which side the supply and demand chart is. Alright, books. The last thing that I will say before I hand the floor over to Peter is organization while researching. Keep track of your keywords in the document. 2, use headers. Does everyone know how to use headers in a document? I am going to show you. References. Table of contents is how you can insert table of contents. But it sorts by heading. How do you create a heading? Highlight. Heading. That's now a heading. I recommend you get a template no matter what debate event you are in. You should download one of the templates that is provided online by the college debate community because they're really, really easy to use and make your organizing a lot easier. But then you can also just make this look better by modifying it if you want bigger or in black instead of blue, stuff like that. This allows you to organize so you don't just have weird words without pieces of evidence under them. Third, have a portion of a Microsoft Word document that is titled TBD. That means to be done. Maybe you find in a references page a ton of articles and you're like, these look really good, but I'm tired. Take all the copied cites of those, put them in your TBD header, and do it later. Don't just X out of that PDF and say, oh well, sleep time, save it for later. Next, we've gone over keeping an outline. Just as a review, do that. It's really going to help you funnel your research down, which is your end goal. And last is cite things while you're searching for the article. If you find a really, really good article, first find the author's name and all the identifying information you would need to go back and find that article again and put that in your Microsoft Word document first. Because if your internet freezes, shuts down, you don't get it back, you now at least know where that article was, and you don't have to try to search through your history of your internet pages to find it again. All right.
Well, we're going to break for lunch right now, and we'll do my section of it tomorrow.